In this video, we're going to be going over the question, what is your biggest strength and or, well, I guess two questions, or what is your biggest weakness? These are real common questions. I had them in, I think, every interview I ever had. I know a lot of other people get them in their interviews. So in this video, we're going to go a little bit in depth as to how to answer, why they're asking you this, and some good examples that you could use in your interviews. So the first question is, why are they asking this? So they're asking this for a few reasons. Number one, they're looking to assess your level of confidence. Being a firefighter is an important job. You're in the public eye a lot. You're going to be asked to do things that a lot of people aren't able or willing to do. So knowing that you can carry yourself with confidence is important. And it throws a lot of people off because when someone asks you what's your biggest strength, a lot of people immediately don't want to talk about that. Sometimes it's a little awkward to talk about yourself, especially in a positive light, because you don't want to come off as looking arrogant or obnoxious, but you need to be confident in your answer. But just as important, you need to be able to show humility in your answer. Again, you're going to be out in the public, you're going to be out around people, and the chiefs and whoever hires you need to know that you're not going to be obnoxious and arrogant and very off-putting for the public. The other reason they're asking you this, because quite honestly, they probably don't really care what you think that your strengths and your weaknesses are. The entire interview is just one big assessment. So whatever you think your strength is, that's great. They're probably not that interested in that. The other thing they're trying to find out is how honest are you going to be? If they ask you what your strength is and you give them some sort of crazy answer, and we'll go over examples later, you give them some sort of crazy answer and they ask you, well, how do you embody that strength? Give me an example of when you did that or how you do that. And you don't have an example, it's going to look bad for you. So it's also important, needless to say, to be honest with whatever answer you give. So what are some key elements to keep in mind when you answer? Your strength must add value to the department, at the very least at the fire service in general. But if you can tie your strength into how it helps the department, that's really important. So what's an example of that? Let's say you are a rescue diver and you are applying to work for a city that has a large body of water. Well, that's a strength that you have. There's not a ton of rescue divers out there that you can talk about. That's a strength that you bring to the table. Now, conversely, if you have some sort of, I don't know, let's say you're a great dancer. I don't know, that's a stupid example. That's an extreme example, but that doesn't matter. They don't care about that. They want to know that you can tie your strengths to their department. So whatever you say has to add value. The other thing is, a lot of people, when they get asked their weakness, get thrown off because they think, well, I don't want to say anything that's so off-putting that the department isn't going to be interested in me anymore. It's important to keep in mind that everybody on that panel has a weakness. Everybody on that panel knows that you have a weakness, whether you want to admit it or not. So number one, it's important to, whatever you do not say that you do not have a weakness. They are going to know you're full of it, and that is going to look real bad for you. But whatever weakness you talk about, keep it honest, but generic. Make it something that kind of everybody can relate to. Now, if you have some sort of major character flaw, probably don't bring that up. That's not the time to do that. Hopefully that'll get fleshed out before you get into the fire service, but that's a different conversation for a different time. So whatever you do, keep it honest, but generic. Have real life examples of how you embody these values. Action is king. Like I said before, if you say that your strength is, let's say you're a natural leader. Let's say that that's the strength that you talk about in your interview. If you're a natural leader, they're probably going to follow up with a question saying, tell me an example of how you do that. When did you do that? And have an example. Well, this one time I was a part of this group and this is what I did and this is how I led the group to whatever. Action is king. Make sure you have examples. And finally, like I said, everyone has weaknesses, but be confident. So what are some examples of strength? Like I just talked about, leadership. Leadership is a really good one. The fire service always needs good leaders. Public safety in general is always looking for good leaders, but especially in the fire service. Maybe you're a quick learner and you like to take on new challenges. You like to take on things that you've never done before. There's not a lot of people like that. Skills in education. Maybe your department only requires you to be an EMT to get hired, but you're a paramedic, or maybe you're in paramedic school. your skills and education will be an asset to that department. So use that as a strength. Again, try and keep them fire related though when you're talking about skills and education. If you have a master's in sociology, that doesn't really apply, so maybe that might not be a good one to bring up. Examples of weaknesses. So this is the one that I actually use, and one that I struggled with is struggle with staying organized, keeping a schedule, making sure all the lists on your list of to-dos are done. That was always something I really struggled with. I still do, not to the extent that I used to, but again, that's something that's kind of generic. Everybody can kind of relate to that. Nobody's perfectly well organized, and I haven't really met a lot of people that don't wish they were more organized. So that was the example I used. Another one, shiny object syndrome. Maybe you're somebody that likes to get started on a project and then you get distracted by a project over here and then another one over there. That's a weakness. It's important that when you start something, you finish it. So, but again, that's not one of those things that's just a massive character flaw that nobody can relate to. So those are just a couple examples of weaknesses. Maybe you have ones that are different, but like I said, make sure you keep them generic but honest. Finally, I'm going to make several of these videos that are just kind of going in depth on one question, giving you some ideas and things to keep in mind. If you have any other questions you would like me to go in depth on, please leave it in the comments below. Subscribe, like, share. I give all this information out for free because I think it's ridiculous that people charge a ton of money to teach people how to get into the fire service and how to pass an interview. So if you get a chance, subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you in the next video.